Your mind was never meant to be quiet. It was meant to be dangerous without control, powerful without instruction, and overwhelming until someone taught it where to strike. They called it overthinking. They told you it was a curse. They never told you the truth. There is a moment burned into memory, a silent room. You stare at nothing while everything moves inside you. Thoughts stack like blades. Scenarios multiply. Time stretches. Someone asks what is wrong. You cannot explain it. Nothing is wrong. Everything is active. Overthinking is not excess. It is power without training. There was a classroom once. You finished the problem before the teacher reached the answer. You waited. Boredom crept in. Your mind wandered ahead, then sideways, then inward. They wrote your name on a report and called you distracted. That was the first betrayal. They punished speed because they could not see it. Your brain does not idle. It scouts. It runs simulations constantly, scanning for risk, opportunity, and patterns others miss entirely. That is not weakness. That is raw capacity. But raw power hurts the untrained. There was a night you remember clearly. Lying awake. Dark ceiling. Thoughts looping endlessly. Every mistake replayed. Every future imagined. Guilt tightened your chest. Shame whispered that you were broken. That night was not anxiety. It was unused energy. Untrained power turns inward and eats itself. You learned early to suppress it, to apologize for thinking too much, to act smaller, quieter, simpler. Each time you did, something inside you dulled. There is a flashback of choosing the safe option when your instincts screamed otherwise. You ignored them to appear normal. The consequences arrived exactly as predicted. You did not celebrate being right. You punished yourself for not listening. Overthinking is foresight ignored. The storm inside you grew heavier with every ignored signal. Then came burnout. The psychological break. A phase where your mind slowed painfully. You thought you were healing. You were not. You were shutting down to survive. Power pulls back when it is abused. There is a symbolic image here, a weapon left unused, rusting, dangerous even to its owner. That was your mind without training. Rebuilding started quietly, not with motivation, with understanding. You realize something crucial. Overthinking does not need to be stopped. It needs direction. That realization changed everything. There was a night when instead of fighting your thoughts, you wrote them down, page after page. The noise moved out of your head. Breathing slowed. Control returned. For the first time, the storm listened. That was training beginning. Your mind does not respond to suppression. It responds to structure. This is the first transformation strategy. Containment. Every thought must have a place to land. Paper, notes, voice. When your brain trusts that nothing will be lost, it stops screaming. There is a childhood memory of building something complicated with full focus. Hours disappeared, sound faded. You were calm, absorbed, unstoppable. That was power aligned. The second strategy is selection. Not every thought deserves depth. Overthinking feels chaotic because everything feels urgent. Training teaches you to ask one question. Does this move me forward or drain me? You remember the first time you let a thought go without guilt. Energy returned immediately. That was discipline replacing shame. The third strategy is compression. You choose one objective, one outcome. All mental energy collapses toward it. Scattered lightning becomes a single strike. There is a memory of working deeply without exhaustion. Time vanished. You finished clean. No crash followed. That was trained power. Storm imagery shifts here. Chaos tightens into force. Fire becomes forge. Steel forms patiently. Underestimation continues. Others mistake your pauses for hesitation, your silence for doubt. You allow it. Misjudgment creates space. There is a moment you recall entering a loud room, opinions clashing. You waited. When you spoke, clarity landed like a blade. The room shifted. That was power deployed. Your emotional intensity stabilizes. Sensitivity sharpens. Empathy becomes radar. You feel deeply without drowning. You read people without absorbing them. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You were built different. Different minds require different training. This part ends with pressure rising. Training has begun, but mastery demands resistance. Noise will return. Doubt will test structure. Hold steady. The storm is learning discipline. Discipline arrives when power meets resistance. Training only matters once pressure tries to break it. This is where most overthinkers retreat. You do not. There is a moment you remember clearly. Everything piles up at once. Messages, expectations, deadlines. The familiar urge to scatter returns. Thoughts accelerate. Old habits whisper panic. This time you pause. Not from fear, from command. Power trained does not rush. It positions. There was a silent morning where you chose one task and ignored the rest. The discomfort was sharp. The world did not collapse. Your focus deepened instead. That was authority forming. Untrained power reacts. Trained power selects. Overthinking begins to obey structure when it sees consistency. You create rituals, start points, end points, boundaries that protect energy instead of draining it. The mind relaxes when leadership is clear. There is a symbolic scene of a war room, maps spread, noise outside. Inside, calm planning. You do not fight everything. You choose the battlefield. That is discipline. Emotional intensity integrates further here. Feelings no longer hijack momentum. They inform it. Anger becomes boundary data. Sadness becomes misalignment data. Excitement becomes confirmation. You stop judging emotion. You translate it. There was a conversation you remember where criticism once would have cut deeply. This time, you extracted value and discarded venom. Focus held. That was emotional intelligence trained. Overthinking becomes a strategic advantage when paired with emotional literacy. The storm no longer lashes randomly. It circles, waits, strikes. There is a flashback of being underestimated again, a dismissive glance, a subtle laugh. You feel it instantly. Old shame tries to rise. You do not engage. Silence becomes weaponized. Later, results arrive quietly. The same people reassess you without admitting error. You do not seek acknowledgement. You store confirmation internally. Power does not need applause. Burnout tries to return here. Old cycles test you. You feel fatigue approaching. This time, you respond early. You rest intentionally. You protect sleep. You step away before collapse. That is mastery beginning. Untrained power exhausts itself. Trained power recovers deliberately. There is a lonely phase in this part. Fewer distractions, fewer connections. You grieve noise briefly. Clarity replaces it. Storm imagery evolves. The storm becomes predictable weather. You forecast it. You move accordingly. Comparison fades further. Others chase speed. You chase accuracy. Their urgency burns fast. Your patience compounds. There is a moment of finishing something meaningful. No adrenaline rush. No celebration. Just weight. Solidity. You trust yourself more. That trust changes posture. You stop explaining your process. You stop defending your pace. You let outcomes speak. Rooms adjust around certainty. This is the psychological rebuild completing. Overthinking no longer spirals. It spirals inward, compressing into insight. There is a symbolic image of a blade laid flat, edge intact, calm surface, lethal precision. The forge did its work. Your mind learns restraint. Knowing when not to engage becomes as important as knowing when to strike. There is a memory of ignoring a provocation, not because you were afraid, because it did not matter. Energy conserved, focus protected. That was growth. You begin to recognize leadership emerging internally, not dominance, containment. Others feel steadier around you. Decisions stabilize. You carry complexity without collapsing. Storm imagery tightens again. Lightning strikes exactly where aimed. No wasted energy, no collateral damage. Pressure increases again toward the end of this phase. Stakes rise. Expectations sharpen. Overthinking intensifies briefly. Testing structure. You hold. The training worked. This part ends with tension coiling tightly. You have trained the power. You have disciplined the storm. The final phase demands identity shift. Power must become who you are, not what you manage. Do not look back. Ascension waits. Power completes its transformation when it no longer needs supervision. This is where overthinking stops being something you manage and becomes the way you lead yourself through the world. This is ascension. There is a moment you remember when pressure peaked beyond anything familiar. Stakes were real. Consequences were permanent. The old version of you would have fractured under the weight of possibilities. This time, you stood still, not frozen, anchored. Your mind opened wide, took everything in, then narrowed with precision. Options collapsed into one clear path. Action followed without hesitation. That was not effort. That was identity. Overthinking had finished its training. There is a symbolic vision of standing at the center of a storm that no longer rages. Wind moves, clouds shift, rain falls, but nothing touches you. The storm waits for instruction. It has learned respect. That respect came from consistency. You stopped fighting your mind. You stopped fearing it. You stopped apologizing for it. You began honoring it. There was a silent night when you realized something profound. The thoughts still came. The depth was still there. The difference was simple. They no longer scared you. Fear was never about the thoughts. It was about control. Truth settles heavy here. Overthinking becomes wisdom when fully integrated. Wisdom does not shout. It does not rush. It does not seek validation. It waits. It observes. It acts cleanly. There is a memory of being underestimated again, but this time it felt different, almost useful. People revealed themselves freely. Motives surfaced. Intentions leaked through careless words. Your mind cataloged everything without judgment. That awareness is quiet power. You no longer confuse urgency with importance. You no longer confuse emotion with direction. You feel deeply, then choose deliberately. There is a moment of leadership you recall. Someone looked to you without asking. Not because you demanded authority, but because you radiated stability. Decisions felt safer around you. That was earned. Storm imagery completes its evolution. The storm becomes a signal system. Whether you read instinctively, you move ahead of it, not against it. Your past suffering reframes itself now. Every sleepless night trained endurance. Every emotional overload expanded perception. Every mistake refined judgment. Nothing was wasted. There is a flashback of the child you once were. Quiet, intense, watching everything, feeling too much, thinking too far ahead. That child was never broken. That child was untrained. You did not abandon them. You forged them. You understand now why shallow advice never worked, why slowing down never helped, why forcing calm only made things worse. Your mind was not asking for silence. It was asking for command. You gave it that. There is a final internal shift where guilt dissolves completely. You stop apologizing for depth. You stop minimizing insight. You stop pretending simplicity is superior. Depth is responsibility, and you are ready for it. You no longer envy people who think less. You respect their path, but you do not desire it. Your path requires foresight, emotional intelligence, strategic patience. You accept that fully. There is a dawn image again. Light spreads evenly. No drama, no rush. You step forward, clear, prepared, steady. Focus is present without force. This is what trained power feels like. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You are built different. Different minds carry different duties. Yours carries vision. You move now without seeking permission. You trust your perception. You refine your systems. You protect your energy. You lead yourself first. The storm does not control you. The storm does not overwhelm you. The storm waits. Your mind is no longer a battlefield. It is a command center. Subscribe for more.